Good afternoon, guys. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? All right, my name is Hana Dindwe, and yes, I will be the moderator for this next session as we discuss collaborating in a pandemic-adjusted world. Now, I'd like to believe we'd all agree that one of the changes that came with the COVID era, with the COVID pandemic, is working remotely. And what that meant was that online meeting platforms like your Zoom, your Microsoft Teams, as well as your Google Meets became very popular as everyone was looking for a platform to connect as we were working remotely. Now, one of the things that came as a result of that, and in spite of these interventions, is what is now termed Zoom fatigue. Now, I'd also like to believe that we'd all agree that also in spite of that, we've also seen great innovation coming from the COVID era, as well as interesting collaborations happening across regions, across cultures, and entrepreneurs getting access to unlimited and very diverse audiences and markets. Now, these gentlemen that are joining me here today are tech founders, and they are collaboration gurus. I'm going to put you on the spot, gentlemen, and call you gurus, because that's exactly what we're going to be unpacking today. How you were able to collaborate in this era, pre this era, as well as right now in this pandemic-adjusted world. Well, I'm joined here by leaders of SignLab, Simplified, and it's Learnable. And I'm going to just I really like telling human stories. So I'd like to know the human beings behind the platforms, right? We'll get to talk about the platforms and the initiatives, but who are these gentlemen who are able to come up with such great initiatives and get into such impactful and meaningful collaborations? Let's start with you, Shaun. You are Zimbabwean by descent and grew up in South Africa, Cape Town, Soweto. Now, one of the things that I also came to find out about you is that, back in the day, especially when you're still in Zimbabwe, you used to walk very long distances to school, and you really didn't have access to resources that made education easy for you. So let's go into that story. Would you say that is what then got to inspire It's Learnable? So just tell us a brief background of how it all began for you.
Can you hear me clearly? All right, awesome. So thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you for everyone in attendance, and thank you for inviting me to this platform to share my story and how my background, how we came about to be. And what Hawana says, I am a self-taught software engineer, an entrepreneur. My main focus when I started out was making mobile games, but I am now in the edtech space, and I'm the founder of a startup called Learnable. And Learnable is basically possibly the most versatile teaching assistant that's connecting teachers and students in marginalized communities to be able to take part in the fourth industrial revolution. So my background is a very important factor when it came about to coming up with Learnable and how Learnable works right now, right? As Kawana said, I was born in Zimbabwe. I did my grade 1 to grade 3 in rural Zimbabwe. We were very rural. When you talk about rural Africa, we were the rural kids to the rural kids. Kids would look at us and say, look, we're rural, but Shaun and them, they are rural. Right? So the whole package, walking to school and etc. And then after my grade 3, from my grade 4, we moved to Cape Town. It was a big culture shock. We had a computer lab at our school and, and things like that. And growing up, I saw how we take technology for as something that we can actually just, as toys, right? We use technology as toys, right? Nice to have. We post on our Instagram, we chat together on WhatsApp, we send each other selfies and etc. But to a child somewhere, right, that has got access to a WhatsApp-capable device or a smartphone, that same technology we take for granted can be used to better their education, can be used to help them pass their final exam, right? And I always brought that with me to say, look, I think we can actually find a gap and make a difference in this market. And that's how we started off.
All right, great stuff. We'll get to unpack a bit more. AJ, you have a very interesting story as well. And I'm really curious about what inspired you to leave India at age 17, move to Pennsylvania. And, you know, what is really interesting about your story is that you had to spend a very cold winter in just a denim jacket. What was that about? And this is before you jetted off one way to New York. And I'd like to believe all of this didn't end in tears because here you are today. So just get us into your story as well and the inspiration behind what you do.
First, thank you for having me here. I think I've been hearing a lot about like failure, and I say there's no such thing as failure, but only learnings. So kind of the story goes back into growing up in India. I failed my high school twice.
Oh, wow.
So my dad was like, you know, if you want to be someone because you can't compete in India, you should go abroad. So I passed and I went abroad. And I landed in Pennsylvania, a random place, I don't know why. And it was cold, of course, so I had no idea that you need a coat to survive the cold. And I was at a cafeteria and a new friend of mine said, if you want to be someone, go to New York. I said, wow, well, that's a great advice. So I just booked the ticket and then went to New York. And in New York, actually, that's where it happened. I met someone else and said, hey, can you build a website? And I said, is it because I look Indian? But I said, I can build a website. So I built the first website and started my first company at the age of 17. And I think it kind of followed sort of whatever I was hearing, what I can do and what can help me. And I was failing along the way. And I think those failures from India to school to college to starting my first company led me to where I am today.
Great stuff. Now, Endre, let me welcome you to the conversation as well. Now, you come from a very tiny island north of Norway, but you're a man with big dreams and big ambitions. So get us into your story. I'm very particularly interested in how SignLab came to existence. Is there a personal reason why you wanted to create something for the deaf? Please just get us into that. What kind of ignited that for you?
Right. So at SignLab, we help parents to deaf children learn sign language.
Okay.
So at SignLab, we help parents to deaf children learn sign language. And until I was 25 years old, I had not met anyone who was deaf. So I came through a very technical background. I started with a technical mindset. I wanted to do something in AI and virtual reality like everyone did in 2015. And then we built something, and you test it on users. You test it on moms, you test it on dads. And I remember very vividly being 25 years old and sitting and having interviews with a lot of these parents that had deaf children in Norway, in a remote area, as you said. This would be as close to the North Pole as you could possibly get. It was so cold, you would need more than a denim jacket. And here we had parents, we had moms, we had dads that had tried to learn sign language for their children for over 4 years. And now they came to me and they broke down in tears because they had been trying to learn sign language for many years, but simply were not able to do so. And I'm sure you can all feel how that would be to be a parent unable to speak to your own son or daughter, or to be that daughter or son that are unable to communicate with anyone around you. And that's where we started. We started with AI, we started with VR, as you say. We learn as we go, and that was not the right call at the time. So we scaled it back. It's now a mobile application. And yeah, that's where it started.
And I'm very curious about how bad the situation is, because as you speak, I'm just thinking, don't we just take for granted, and I think my audience would attest to this, the fact that parents of deaf children may struggle to communicate with them. I think if it's a reality that you're not faced with, you kind of take for granted that, yeah, they can communicate. So how bad is the situation globally, for that matter?
It's a large problem. So 9 out of 10 parents to deaf children are unable to learn sign language today.
Oh, wow.
9 out of 10. And it's a large population, about 70 million, about the size of Germany. And I think the reason why this is not properly being addressed is that it's very dispersed. So every society, every community has maybe 1 in 1,000, maybe 1 in 500 that is deaf. So it's a problem everywhere, but it's not a large centered problem. And that's why it's neglected.
And what I love about my panelists this afternoon is that you've all experienced collaboration differently. So maybe let's just continue with you, Endre. What you mentioned is that you had already started collaborating and doing things the way we're now doing them in this COVID era, pre-COVID. So please just let us know about the platform that you created and how you were able to collaborate with people from different regions and different countries even before COVID.
Right, so we are built on a model. So you come from Norway, right? And we now operate in China, India, Brazil, countries that I have no preconception about how sign language should be taught or how it is. So we work with local partners in each country, and then we develop this solution with them. So before COVID, we had fantastic partners in India, we had fantastic partners in Indonesia, and we then had to collaborate with people that are not only speak a foreign language, but also that typically would need an interpreter, maybe several in between. So that's a huge collaboration challenge. And it comes back to trust, and it comes back to being aligned, and that's how we collaborate.
I love the fact that you brought up trust, and I'd like us to touch on trust a little bit later. Let's come back to you, Shaun. Yeah. Now, being from just around the corner, just across the border from us, it's incredible that you've been able to access a global market. What would you say it is that you've done with It's Learnable that has given you access to this global market?
Yeah.
What is that X factor? What's the competitive advantage?
I think the main advantage is seeing the global market as one market, right? So a lot of the times when we make apps for our communities, we make apps for our country, for our province, our certain school, and etc. But I like the fact that you used, next door in like South Africa and Zimbabwe. Yeah. But when it comes to the digital space, those borders don't exist at all. You can make an app for people in America, for people in Norway, for people in India and in Germany and etc. And you can actually scale that app to more and more people. And when we came about to building It's Learnable came about, it was unintentional. If I can just like touch on that as well. Yeah. It's Learnable was very, very unintentional because we started out this application by saying like, look, we started a business, we make mobile applications and games, but we don't have a portfolio for ourselves. Let's pick the low-hanging fruit. Education was the low-hanging fruit in hindsight. Boy, were we wrong. After a while, we realized that, I like to crack this joke where I feel like if you're dating someone, there's a certain point in the relationship where you realize, no, this is why this person was single. You realize this is why they were single. We realized why EdTech was single after spending my life savings in EdTech, right? But we had gone too deep. And we kept the ball rolling. We said, look, let's find a way to like terminate this thing. This was about 3 years in. And we realized that over time, we became the education experts. I became the education guy. People started calling me the education guy because I kept delivering more and more solutions in education. And over the years, we started collaborating with the likes of UNESCO. They were like, look, you are so well experienced in education. We want to work with you. Then we collaborated after that with Deloitte. They said, look, you're very well experienced in education. We want to work with you. And with those collaborations came data and information where they were saying that, look, we have a problem like this. This is our data over the past 20 years in the EdTech space. Help us solve it. Teachers like to do A, B, C, D in this way. I'm like, oh, they do? So we started taking more and more information until we started pivoting over time to a stage where It's Learnable became a very practical solution that people were willing to like pay for and use and also support and fund to more and more people to have access to. And also It's Learnable is available for free at the moment. So you can have it on WhatsApp, you can have it on your mobile phone, you can have it as a mobile app, and etc. And we're giving it away to people for free. But it has a subscription business model, and so it is still for profit, but we're giving it out to people for free right now. So if you want to try it out, this is your chance.
Lovely stuff. Now, AJ, you're known for having built Rumi, and you had been building Rumi for 9 years before you became co-founder of Simplified. I love how you broke down Simplified for me in a very simplified manner earlier on. So I'd like you to get us into Simplified. Also, initially, what you did was you joined as an angel investor, but eventually then decided, no, I'm going to collaborate and become a co-founder. Why that decision? So please break down Simplified for us initially, and then get us into why you decided to go into this collaboration.
Absolutely. I think in post-pandemic, of course, or pandemic, one thing that I realized what everybody was doing is consuming content and more content, right? One thing we all do, we wake up and most of us, not for good reasons, just check our phone and start scrolling, right? So content creation is, I think, just going crazy. And when you look at small businesses, creating content is actually quite difficult. It might be just a simple Instagram post or maybe a Facebook ad. Maybe you're trying to write a blog to educate your consumers. And then once you're done creating content, you're actually using some random app or some company to import, export, and then publish to all social media channels. So we were like, why can't we have this all-in-one tool? Why can't small businesses, creators, and marketers can actually use one app where they can design anything they want to? They can maybe turn this into a video, and then you can write any copy you can imagine, from blog to sales copy, emails, whatever you like actually. And then you can publish all of that content within the app to any social media channel that you want to. So that was the idea for building Simplified. And I think post-pandemic was the right time because people were kind of collaborating from their homes, remotely, right? And I think when you think about how people worked before, you were in a conference room, you had a whiteboard, you're all trying to just brainstorm ideas, and you have different types of people who can maybe think of better copy, maybe who can guide you in better design. And that wasn't happening on Zoom calls. And there was a lot of back and forth, and we were like, how can we cut that down? So I think that was the inspiration behind the company. But going back to it, I built 3 companies before Simplified, and all of them have been solo founder companies. I do not recommend to be a solo founder. It's a tough journey as itself, and then imagine being a solo founder. So I built Rumi and grew it to millions of users, became one of the biggest companies in New York, and ended up raising over $25 million in capital. Of course, it came with its own set of massive highs and massive lows. I think I remember almost going bankrupt at least 3 times. And I think after 9 years, I wanted to replace myself. And I thought, I think there's a point in time where I think I've done enough, and I think I can see myself leaving, and someone else can take on the lead and take the company in a different direction. So got into profitability, and that was a time to leave, and I've been investing for a while, and a friend reached out to me. And he's like, hey, this is the tool I'm building, Simplified. Do you want to take a look at it? I took a look at it, and I want to put the money into the company, so definitely skin in the game. And we just kept chatting, and I think that pandemic sort of feeling and looking at content creation, looking at how the world was moving, and how people are telling their stories. I mean, everyone here I'm seeing is either on TikTok or maybe Instagram or Facebook is sharing posts. I am at Forbes Summit, blah, blah, blah. I met these people. This was the last night, the night before that. So I think we're seeing content creation in a whole different way where you can tell your story to the world. So I think Simplified made all the sense. And I think having a co-founder for me was like, well, let's give it a try. I think as an entrepreneur, there's nothing but learning, so learning more.
Right, great stuff. Now, I'd like to bring it home, especially seeing that all 3 platforms have gone into some type of collaboration. I think we have a bit of a trust issue this side of the world. I don't know whether it's just the Botswana thing, but I know collaboration isn't a big thing for us because, first of all, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to share my intellectual property with the next person. What if? What if? So there are so many what ifs. So what would you say are tools that one needs for effective collaboration? How were you guys able to navigate, collaboration without worrying about things like my idea may get stolen? Because that's reality on the ground this side.
I mean, I can keep it short. I think ideas are worth nothing without the execution. And I think, instead of I think about it like, instead of thinking about myself, what I can do, I think about what can I do with others, and can we do it 4 times bigger, actually. So I think at that point in time, the fear goes away once everyone is aligned to build something bigger than themselves, bigger than the team, actually, and then the team plays a big role. So I think once you have that, then that's a start to actually start collaborating.
Okay, absolutely. Now, Endre, SignLab is on track to providing over 60% of the world's deaf population, along with their families, schools, and communities with access to learning sign language. Please get us into that. This is your goal by the end of 2022. How are you going about accessing such a huge market segment, especially because, while we're at it, there are tech giants out there who are doing everything they possibly can to make sure that they maintain supremacy in this landscape. So please just get us into what your plan is. 60% of the global market is quite huge.
It is. I will actually go back to the collaboration question there, because in order to do that, a lot of collaboration is needed. In every market that we go into, which is now close to a dozen, we have to have a local partner that we trust, that we can work with. And in most of these countries, we cannot rely on the legal system. Like we would never engage in a legal battle over this. That simply does not work. And what you need to do there is to make sure that your values are aligned, that the people that you're working with, that they want the same thing on a gut, real level, that they can prove that this is what they've been doing for a long time. And then you see, as soon as your values are aligned, you can, as you say, see to it that you can do more together, and that's what it's about.
Okay.
And then the second question is, where do we compete with the big tech? And here, I think there is a lot of value to thinking of ourselves as you are a category one. Competition destroys profitability. So here we are a category one. We have very few competitors that are directly competing with our platform. And the reason for that is that you want to scale quickly, and then you want to be 10x on certain important metrics. So we want to be 10 times better in availability. We're available in more places. We want to be 10 times better at affordability. We are 10 times the cost of available solutions. And we want to be 10 times as effective at learning sign language. And I think if you can get that down, the partnerships, and then the 10x on important metrics, you have the chance to capture a big market.
Yeah.
And do you have okay, yeah, you can.
If I can add to that, and I also believe that, just to add to like what these two guys were saying, if I can add to that, I believe that 99.999% of the solutions to problems that you see in hindsight, they're not actually problems, because you're solving them theoretically. The moment you solve something practically, people will come to you. They can't take value from you. So take the time to actually find a way to solve the problem practically. And by practically, I mean in a way that's sustainable. By sustainable, I mean you can charge people for it and you can make a profit from it. And you be able to keep your company going from based on that. So just put in the work and don't think of my idea. 100,000 people saw the same idea, right? Solve it practically first, and then you can start calling it an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as we're wrapping up, I think it would be an injustice to talk about collaboration, but not bring in our audience, our techpreneurs and the audience, our entrepreneurs here, who would possibly like to collaborate with your platforms. Do you already have a footprint in Africa, and is there an opportunity for collaborating with our local entrepreneurs?
Definitely need something here. So we're growing really fast in Africa, actually. And we are looking for creators, influencers, designers especially. And I'm actually came with a purpose and a clear vision, sort of like actually hiring people here.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking to actually...
opportunities, guys.
So I would definitely do it. So I'm open to talking to anyone.
Okay.
Yeah. And on our side, like, we're looking for teachers. Like, if we can get as many teachers and teaching institutions to just work with us to create curriculums and things like that, the platform is free for now, so that we can actually build up to that stage. And we have some incentives, to, like, to give to people that we're collaborating with to keep the platform going and themselves going and fully funded. Yeah.
Okay.
And for us, one of the reasons why we are here is to try to find a partner in different African countries. So if anyone here are interested in special education, know something about deaf education, I would love to talk to you.
All right, guys, so there are opportunities. In wrapping up, gentlemen, can you just quickly just let us know where people now can interact with you? Because, of course, there's no opportunity for a Q&A. So where do they get in touch? There you are talking about an employment opportunity. There you are talking about looking for people to collaborate with in the sign language space. And, yeah, you're saying you're looking for teachers. So where can our audience get a hold of you?
I guess LinkedIn or Twitter,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the full name, so just type it. If not Simplified, then I think you'll find me.
All right.
Same, LinkedIn, Twitter, everything works.
Same, yeah. The best way is LinkedIn, to just reach out to me directly, but also just sign up on our platform. It's free right now. The website is www.itslearnable.co.za. Sign up, and if you have any issues on our platform, we have like a live support chat that can people can actually help you start, creating your first lessons on our platform and distributing them.
And I'd like to believe you guys will be here for the next couple of days exploring our beautiful country, so there's an opportunity to continue to network with them. Ladies and gentlemen, guys, please give a round of applause to my incredible audience. Yeah.